Welcome, one and all. This is Peter Palmiotti of Human Art Studio, and this is Studio Synergy, episode 68. The writing is on the wall. Hopefully, I don't have a video playing, but I probably do. So let me go over there. Meanwhile, hey, I have a Kickstarter going, and Karyn, who is here with us tonight.
Hello.
All right, shush. Is also part of it. It's Werewolves and Unicorns is happening right now live on Kickstarter. And just saw it went over 3,100.
Yay.
Which is very, very good. We definitely passed our goal. But I really think, between the quality of the people in the book, it's over 100 pages. It's 28 creators doing short stories. It's all mythical creatures is the theme of it. It's an incredible piece of work, and I really think it should go up. We're not making a dime. It would just get maybe a couple more copies if it goes really high. But, we just want to get it out there, get it to people, and show off our talents. And as a selling point, I've been in the comic industry for 27 years. This is the first story I wrote, penciled and inked. So you got to get it. Right?
Yes.
Everybody
yes.
agree with me?
Yes.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
All right. So I have a lot of new friends and old, some regulars, some you have not met. But we'll go from left to right as I see them because we all see each other differently. Sandy, is your dog still barking? Or are you free to talk?
They're coming in and out, but hopefully I can talk quick enough that they're not going to interrupt anything.
So
I am... Yeah, go ahead.
The floor is yours.
No barking. No. Okay, sorry. They're all distracting me now. I'm Darkenmarr on any and all social medias. You can find me there. I don't really have much to proclaim, but I am currently designing characters for my next 100-day challenge, which is currently on the screen. I'm making a character page.
Very cool.
For one of my main characters. So that's all I can think of.
I like it. Looks really cool.
Thanks.
And then we have Doug Garrett. His first time here. Welcome, Doug.
Hey, it's good to be here. I'm Doug Garrett. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. I currently have a project on Indiegogo. It's an 80-page anthology called Legends of the Lone Wolf. It's based on a character that I did. If you check out the Indiegogo page, you can read issue 1 for free. So go give that a look if you're so inclined.
I am glad to see you here because I have been following Marsh, and so I have been following your anthology, and now I have more faces to. So I'm going to go read the first chapter later, but yes, so it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
Cool. And of course, we have Eric with us tonight. Eric.
Yeah, you can pretty much find me through either Eric Faries, my name, last name spelled Faries. You can find me as Eric Ronan on Twitter, on the Instagram stuff. Pretty much anywhere else that doesn't use my main name would use Eric Ronan, all one word. I was going to be working on an animation piece, but I realized I need to contact the client and ask them a important question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a book out of Sandy's book, out of her library, and I'm actually going to work on a character design that I've had in my head for a while. So
Yay!
I'm actually going to go back to doing screen sharing in a moment. But that's all my stuff.
Okay, cool. Excellent. excellent. And then we have Karyn. She's becoming a regular on this show.
Yeah, well, I don't know how that happened. But yes, I am currently working on, so I'm in the Werewolves and Unicorns anthology with Peter and all those 28 other creators. And I am currently working on the poster for our second stretch goal. And so I'm not going to show it because it's not official. Like, I think our editor Mike is in charge of what we're showing. So, but I'm getting close to I'm almost done with the inks. And as soon as that's done, I'm going to start coloring it. But I'm really hoping that we can, I think, what was it? 4,600 to get to that stretch goal, or I got to go to the page. I'm not sure.
I think it's 46.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, so people don't make all my hard work for not in vain. You must pledge so that you can have this cool poster I'm working on. So
yeah, right now, like I said, we're at 31 and change. The first stretch goal is 32, so we're pretty close to that right now.
Yeah, that's
and
the cool editor's page, right? Like the letters from the editor or whatever. Letters to the editor. What is that?
You know, I thought it was the letters page.
Yeah, the letters
maybe,
page. It is.
Yeah, and some other stuff maybe. I should really read this stuff, but I got 1,000 things going on. So
what? All right, I'm gonna go to the page right now. Kickstarter. Wait, I'm on Kickstarter. Werewolves. I should have been. I didn't think we'd be talking about this. Okay, werewolves and unicorns. Pretty unicorns. Okay, so here it is. So we are at 3142. We have 84 backers. We have 16 days to go. And so the first stretch goal is the letters. If I can get down, scroll. Letters column. So if we hit $3,200, we'll have the letters column. And then, okay, so for my poster that I'm working on, it's $4,600.
Yeah.
So I'm basically, the poster is an 11 by 17, and I'm basically drawing every single character from all of the different stories on one poster.
I think Mike said you can show the Griffin tonight. No,
I can show the Griffin tonight. Is he in the chat? Or are you just talking smack? No, I mean, there's a partial update of a work in progress on the Kickstarter page, but I've gotten further, and I just don't know how much. I don't know. Right. I'm not the editor, so I gotta be. But anyway, so
confirm.
Yeah. Right. So yes, I am almost done with the inking, and then I'm going to color it, and then we'll show it to the world. But anyway, yes. So please, if you know anybody who loves unicorns and werewolves and mythical creatures and supports indie comics and anthologies like Lone Wolf, right? It's Lone Wolf?
Yes.
Lone Wolf. We want to support anthologies tonight. Lone Wolf and werewolves and unicorns. And make my hard work worth it. My thumb hurts.
Legend of the Lone Wolf.
Legend of the Lone Wolf.
So it's full time. Yeah.
Yes. Anthology.
Then, yes. And then we have Robert. Hello, Robert.
Hi, I'm Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Hi. Listen, I'm coming a little late to the party here. I'm a writer, and let me just say that if you read any comic magazines during the 80s and 90s, from Amazing Heroes to Wizard, you read something I wrote, because I started in this field. I've been reading comics since the early 60s and working professionally in the field since the early 80s. I've been mostly as a journalist. Over the last 10 years, I've been writing my own comics for a number of different publishers. And let's see if I can figure out how to do this. I found out about you guys late, but I have my own. Can I share this? Is this going to work?
Screen share. You click on. There you go. You got it.
Those are my characters, Wolf Girls. They're a pair of preteen werewolves who stalk pedophiles. Yeah, that's very interesting. I was challenged to write a story some years ago for one publisher, and it was the horror anthology, we were told to write something that would frighten us. And my children were young then, and having my children abducted was kind of a real thing for me. So I wrote a story of two children who were stalking the people who were stalking them, and it was apparently so effective. My father almost stopped talking to me when he read the story.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, unfortunately, I'm not. My story is not in this anthology. I found out about it after you guys launched it, or Peter launched it, and I shared it on. I'm the admin of a page called Back This Kickstarter, and on Facebook, and so I shared it there, and I wanted to talk to Peter about doing it. And if you guys are doing another issue of it sometime, I'd love to contribute because I got more stories from my characters.
Well, I think I messaged you, like, essentially to get into the anthology, you have to do the 100-day challenge successfully. The 100-day challenge is working on your own project for 100 days, at least 30 minutes. I mean, you pretty much do that. But also posting about it, you know, some people do it a couple times, some people do it whatchamacallit,
Need love.
on YouTube every day. Some people blog about it, but you definitely like post in the group as much as you can.
What?
And those that
Sorry, I'm
do
gonna mute
it
myself.
successfully then are able to get into the anthology if we do another anthology. I mean, that's like up in the air until we get there.
Okay. Well, at the moment, there were 2 episodes of this story published. A third one was completed, but never published. And I'm in the process of combining all 3 stories with some new material, and I'm going to self-publish it through Pronto Comics, and
Cool.
my own title of Freelance City, Funny Book City.
Yeah. Yeah. But you've been published by so many people. Like, I mean, as far as like comic work,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you know, it's like our mutual friends Joe Martino and Dave Ryan, as well as many other publishers and people. But yeah, good to have you on the show, and
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. I will mention 2 other things. I'm doing Independent Crossroads tomorrow. That's my more one-on-one interview style program, and that will be with a fellow by the name of Travis Gibb, and you can check that out tomorrow night. It's probably 9 o'clock. I'm not positive, but I'll set it up late. I'll probably set it up tomorrow. But so that will be Wednesday night, and then Thursday night, me and that guy Mike Emirates are joining forces and going on to crowdfunding comics with Niall and Billy Tucci, and that's going to be a great time. I wanted to get on that show before with Retro, but at least I got a shout out, and now they saw just one picture of the anthology and were blown away, so they wanted us on the show. So we'll be talking about werewolves and unicorns on that show. So you can look forward to that. But enough of all that jazz. I'm going to lay back and sketch and talk about writing. I really want to start with you, Robert, since you've been doing it quite some time.
Okay.
Anything at all? Anything that strikes your fancy as far as like writing comic books or just writing in general? There's a group of people here ready to dive in and you know, go with the topic of conversation.
I don't know where to start. I've been, like I said, I've been working professionally as a writer since '81. No, yeah, '81, and reading them since '61, and like I said, in the last 10 years, actually writing comics. Back in the mid '80s, '87, '88, I had 3 comics come out from Renegade Press called Agent Unknown. Spy. It was a spy book that I was doing. unfortunately got crashed in during the black and white implosion at the time. But I haven't. I love comics. I'm a big fan, and I just want to write some more. I want to write some more stuff. I've said repeatedly that as much as I like corporate comics, I like the independent comics that my friends write because they're more interesting on a lot of levels. Corporate comics can't change. Spidey's never going to die. He's always going to be Peter Parker, and if they change him or whatever, but the independent stuff that my friends write, especially when I come across something like Werewolves and Unicorns, which looks amazing. I'm going to have to back it. I haven't backed it yet, but I will.
Yay! Thank you.
Yay.
So I got nothing. I mean, and look at that.
Yeah, cat butt. Sorry. So, what about like, if you're instructed to like work on a story, maybe somebody gives you an idea, like, they have a book, but they want you to write an issue. I'm sure you've come across that. How challenging is something like that?
Not as bad as you think, because the people I've worked with, the people who have assigned me story ideas, Joe Martino, Jim Main, they've said, "Here, do this story," and I went, "Okay, fine." I mean, sometimes it was an idea. Jim Main asked, he was doing a Christmas themed issue. He said, "Tell me a Christmas story." I said, "I really don't have a Christmas story. Wait, I know this joke that involves Christmas and Santa and write that. Do that story." I went, "All right." So I did a story, basically a joke I've been telling since I was about 18 years old, and he liked it, and it came into a story, and it worked out fine. Joe Martino had his character Cyberines, and he told me who these characters were. They're basically it's Captain America leading a paramilitary group of superheroes. They're all his characters, and here's the story. Let's do it. Also for that was for Red Anvil. For them, I've been doing a story called Owl Girls. Dave Ryan came across this gal from Italy whose artwork he thought was amazing, and it is. And she had these characters. They had the heads of owls and the bodies of human women, and they were basically Furies. They spoke to the dead. And she had an idea of the story, but she didn't know how to tell the story. And she wanted to make it a comic book, but she didn't know how to do that. So Dave said, "Hey, I got this friend, Bob. He's a writer. Let's give him a crack at it." And I talked to the gal who was in charge, whose story it was, and she gave me the background, and I wrote 2 issues of it have been published. The third one has been blocked out, hasn't been published yet, but I know where the story is going. The story itself is mine, but the concept is hers, which is a really interesting way to work at it. And I approached it differently than I approach stories where it's my character or I have a stronger lead into what's going on. She really just had a very vague idea of what she wanted to do, and an amazing, amazing art style. And I tried to just cater to her art. Let me see if I can find somebody else talk for a minute while I see if I can find some of the art for that.
So there's a lot there,
right,
different, like there's so many things we could ask about, like, how you do develop a comic idea when you're writing by yourself versus how you develop a comic in a partnership like that, where you have a creator coming up with the concept, like how you whole approach and how you sit down. Like there's so much there that we could pick your brain about,
Yeah. I honestly don't think I do it differently. I mean, if I'm writing your story, I got to know what you want to do with it. I've written as a writer, just as a writer, not in comic, but as a writer, I've had to write in the voice of other people. And, I was writing for a magazine, and the salesman had a column, but he couldn't figure out how to write it. So he turned it over to me, and I basically took on his personality and wrote his column for his, and then the publisher, I wrote for him, and I wrote under a couple of different characters, and I always tried to keep a different voice on it, because it was, try to remember, it's not me talking. And then perhaps the coolest writing assignment I ever had was I wrote 4 chapters in each of the last 2 How to Create Comic Book Superheroes by Stan Lee. So I got to write in the voice of Stan Lee.
That's cool.
Which was awesome, because now I get to say, I'm Stan Lee and you're not.
I see how you are.
Exactly. Let's see if this is what this is. Oh, this is a really nice piece of art. Yeah. Let's see if this shows up really nice. This is from the Owl Girls. Let's see if that comes in. Did it show up? I don't see it.
Yep, it shows.
Yeah.
It's there?
We see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. That's one. I gotta see if I get a better picture. That was a really cool one. That's from I think the 2nd or 3rd issue. Nope. I'm not. No, those are just sketches. That's not good.
Well, while he's looking, Doug, let's get you to jump in.
Well, I come at writing like a different way than most people. I started off as a kid. I've always like had an artistic streak. You know, I like to draw. I was actually really good at drawing when I was a kid, but I gave that up when I started playing guitar. And so I started writing my own songs, and I've written music and songs for probably, for 20 years. And it's just recently I decided to get into like the writing comics, because I approached the writing the same way. A lot of my songs tell a story. You know, you have a character, you have a perspective, and different things that happen. And the song is a journey. You know, you start here and you need to get to the end. So I just kind of transferred all that over from songwriting into comics.
There's a lot of people in comics that are like also into music, and it's definitely not the same thing, but there's definitely a connection between both. And it's like I know plenty of comic artists who play music and are in bands and write songs and all that. It's funny when I posted that you were going to be on this. Well, when you posted it, you were going to be on my show, and then I replied. I was immediately followed by a YouTuber who is a singer-songwriter, but I believe he's also has like a writing group on his channel. It's like I scoped him out really quickly. I forget his name, but it was really funny. But yeah, I knew I was going somewhere. Apologies. Cat in my face, distracting me.
So that's interesting. What is it about? Why do you think there is a predominance or several creative comic people and music people? What do you think it is that draws them, or is it just because they're creative? Like, is there something about it? Do you think?
Mind if I poke in a little bit?
No, we don't want you. Yes, go ahead.
Well, too bad. I give my opinion anyway.
Yes, of course.
Especially because I have, similar to Doug, is like I have the same perspective of like I'm both an artist in, well, as you can see, comic sense, but I'm also a musician. I'm in a band. I write music, and honestly, I feel like the two are pretty strongly connected depending on how you write music, because if you think about it, music is just using sound really to tell a story and to tell emotion, while comics is using visual representations of those same aspects. So one, like if you happen to be, you can kind of take your way of writing for one And it will mostly translate to how you would write or create in the other, because even the way I write music isn't that different from how I write like stories and come up with artwork and stuff like that.
So in a concrete example, what do you mean by that? Because like, so I also dabble in novels, so I have my own ideas of like how that transcends. But how does your, like when I write a novel, I sketch first. So, and then I flush out. So when you're writing it, so what is it in the creative mind that links music? You say you write like a song, you write your comics kind of like the same way. What is similar about those two processes?
I guess in my process specifically, like obviously I start out with, especially, all right, let's go with stories then, just because obviously even artwork would be about the same. But like if I'm writing a song, what I usually do is it always starts with what I consider what you call a riff, which is like whatever the main thing you play. Like, you know, if you listen to Enter Sandman, you hear that dun, 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 you hear that part, you know it's Enter Sandman. That's the riff. So usually that's kind of like my starting point. That's my sketching point. I start taking pieces and I start kind of just throwing pieces together and I start making a composition. And then as I go with, okay, I have a rough composition. All right, now I start refining it a little bit. I start adding details, start adding parts. With writing a story, it's, at least for me mentally, it's no different. I'm literally just starting with the, you know, quote unquote riff or sketch in my head, the same way I would with music. And then I just kind of compose something, usually just throwing pieces together. And then as that comes together, I go, okay, here's my composition. Here's my rough sketch of everything. Now let me go in, let me refine it. Let me add more detail. Let me add little pieces here and there. So like mentally, I guess my thinking process and the way I construct for me personally is pretty much the same, other than the tools I use and obviously the final product. One's a drawing, one's music. And even when I write words, whether I'm writing dialogue or whether I'm writing lyrics for my songs, you know, for me to sing, it's about how you convey the story or how you convey an emotion. Or in comics, it's, same thing, emotion, story, character. It's like how you progress the piece, whatever it is.
Yeah.
At least for me, that's how that works.
Is it like that for you, Doug? Or
yeah, it's a lot like that. But usually, like, what I'll do is when I get the music done, I depending on how that feels is what I start writing about. You know how it is. If you want to write something and you sit down to write it, usually you have a feeling. It's like, well, I want to write about this, I want to write about that. Whatever the song will generate some kind of feeling, I start writing about it. And then I construct a story with the song. Usually a song could be about an experience you had, like a story, like a comic or something you want to base it on. And I just, I write the beginning, the middle, the end, just like putting together a book. But one thing I like to do is the last band I was in, we wrote a series of songs. We wanted all the songs to come together to tell one story. So it was like we sat down and we wrote each part as a chapter. And to me, it's the same thing with writing these comics. I sit down and I write out my sections. Sometimes, they get moved around. You change up the story, but it's really similar for me.
Speaking as someone, am I on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Speaking as someone who couldn't carry a tune in a paper bag, I sometimes an event will spark a story with me, and I'll like come into the story in the middle of it and say, wow, that was an interesting thing, the climax of the story, as it were, and then walk that story to the end and go, okay, now I have an ending. Now where did it begin? Why are they doing what they're doing? Why are they doing things the way they're doing their things? I was in Grand Central a couple of years back, and I walked by. There was a store that was selling. It was a stationery store, and there was a sign in the window that said something like "Writing is flirting" or something to that effect. And I went, "Wait, hold on a second." And in that one moment, I had the idea of a story of a pen pals writing letters back into each other, and basically they were communicating through this whole pen pal thing. And it turned out that the person writing this story, one of the people in that was actually Jack the Ripper, who met the woman and then hacked her up.
Oh dear.
It was a horror story.
I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
I thought it was a romantic comedy.
It sounded so nice there at the beginning.
Yeah, it did. It took a dark turn really fast.
Then
He wrote the Notebook. That's what he's going into.
it's like
something to my head in like just a heartbeat. And in another instance,
Yeah.
I was challenged to write I needed to write a story again with werewolves in it, and the story was evolving, and there was one character in the story who wasn't a werewolf. She was a federal agent assigned to protect somebody, and this character was a previously established character of mine, and she was a angry character. She was always on the edge of that, and wasn't until I was writing this story, which was years after I created the character, that I discovered why she was angry. And she told me in the story why she was angry. And it wasn't just because she was angry. There was a reason. And it never occurred to me why she was an angry character. I just wrote her that way until I found out, oh my God, that's why she's angry? Oh, I'd be angry too at that. And it worked out really well. Sometimes it's very funny how characters will sometimes just speak to you. It's their story. I'm just transcribing.
Yeah. It's like with the Kickstarter I just had with my character Retro was originally conceived in my late teens. And I've developed him more and more over the years. So it's a character that's lived with me a long time, and it's like I'd be going somewhere, I'll be eating in a restaurant, I'd be at home almost asleep, and I'll like add to the story and add to the story. I find now it's like I'm trying to come up with new creations. And it's like little bits and pieces spark, and I write it down, and it sort of becomes like a loose sketch. And Marshall Lee, a mutual friend of a lot of us, did a video about writing tonight, and it's like I sort of commented in the video. It's like for me, writing is like putting together a comic page. It's a rough sketch, then it's finished pencils, then it's inks, then it's colored. It kind of just like comes together over time, over layer and layer and layer. And you just want to get the foundation there. It doesn't matter if it's a loose mess. It'll eventually all come together. Is like how I see it at the moment. It's like I kind of just build it, and it's like what they say about writing is like it's you get the first draft down no matter what it looks like, and then you go second draft, third draft, whatever you need to really pull it all together and finalize it and make it polished and all that.
Unless you're Jack Kirby, and then you just start from the top corner of the page and work your way to the fucking bottom. Fucking magician.
Huh.
There's that.
God, I would love to just have sat in a room and watched that. That had to have been fun to just witness.
Yeah, probably everybody else in the room was busy working too.
He probably had a lot of that worked out in his head before he ever put his pencil down. So,
because I even if you ever watch, there's a documentary about Jack Kirby, and they talk about like the people who worked with him, and they would just be amazed that he would get it on. He would have a phone call from Stan of what the comic that week or month was going to be, and then he would just walk over to his board, sit down, pencil would touch the top of the fucking piece of paper, and he would just go. like his brain just kicks into a new mode, and he would just create a story.
So he probably thought very visually then. He would see it like a movie in his head and be able to just record it as he went, kind of.
People like that are so awesome.
Yeah. What's his name? Like Jow something, like 3 names. Does a lot of videos on YouTube where he just like creates this whole battle sequence off the top of his head, and it's just like, draws a little here, draws a little there. Yeah. It's just
I don't
freaking
watch
amazing,
but
it's
just depressing.
but it's like anything. It's a learned skill. I mean, I believe any one of us is capable of doing something like that. But that's and
it's one of those things where you just kind of have to let your mind just go and just let your mind just freely do whatever the fuck it wants. Like, I've learned to just kind of do that now when I draw. I don't think about a lot. I'll just like the most I thought about this guy was just I want him to look kind of tough, and I was like, I'll throw a mask on him, and I just started doodling masks. Like, I'm not thinking specifics on like what the mask should look like. I'm just throwing lines and just keeping them.
Yeah, I mean, that's much like writing. You see, eventually you'll see patterns that please you and follow that direction,
So are you guys plotters or pantsers or both?
Both. I don't know if everyone knows what that is.
Fuck if I know.
Okay, so do you want to explain it, or do you want me to explain it?
You can explain it.
Okay, so a plotter means that you sit down, and whether it's with like a classic outline or with like note cards or whatever, you think of the story and you write down the plot all the way to the end before you start writing. And a pantser is somebody who just starts wherever at the beginning, and they have no idea. They just have like no plan. They just say, I'm going to write about this cool shapeshifter, and then they just start writing. Yeah. And then there's people that are sort of like a hybrid. So
God, yeah, I guess I am more of the latter than the first.
You're a pantser?
I just kind of let my mind have at it, and whatever happens.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of do both. I'll sit and just, if I want to write a story about a character or I want to write about the character, I'll just write.
Mm-hmm.
Just write whatever comes to mind. And usually I take that and then I plot out an outline from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go through and lay out, the story.
Cool. Who else? Robert?
I've been reading comics so long. I really think visually.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of write my stories in that way. When I'm writing a comic, and especially if I don't know who the artist is, if I'm writing for an anthology, I'll write. I write full script. Page 1, panel 1. This is what happens. Page 2. Page 1, panel 2. And I've edited some comics in my time, and I don't know if I was taught some of this stuff, if I learned some of it, but I'll edit a script and somebody will go, yeah, Joe walks into a room, pours himself a cup of coffee, sits on the couch, and turns on the TV. That's panel 1.
Oh, nice.
I love that.
And then it's like 2 guys talking, and there's a whole conversation, and sorry, there are 87 words in this panel. There are 8 panels on this page, and where do you plan on putting art?
Yeah.
I'm like, sir, this is not animation.
Yeah.
You clearly want a cartoon.
Well, exactly. So I try to write, and I think that I spent a number of years as a radio ad copywriter, and I learned how to write very, very succinctly, and be, as my my instructor at the time told me, pithy, as opposed to pissy. And I try to get. You have to say the thing fast and get in and get out of the conversation. A common conversation I have with my brother is, how come we have to tell the story behind the story before you get there? I remember I was working at a local festival, and since I was a volunteer working at a festival, I had a radio, and I was on the grounds crew. somebody came over the radio and said, "Hey, where's the thing that I need?" And I knew what the thing was, and I picked up my radio and I said, "It's in the green containment shelf on the left-hand side on the white shelf, the second white shelf. It's in the middle." And they hung up. My brother looked at me and said, "How come you can't answer me like that?" And I said, "Because I knew I'm on an open channel. I had 30 seconds before somebody jumped in asking for something else, and and he was going to step on my conversation, and I had to get in and get out and be done." And that's kind of like how I write comics. I mean, the explanation of what I'm taking place in the page or on that panel can be very, very lengthy to describe all the detail that I want. And then I tell the artist, look, if all this doesn't fit in panel one, this is the room that they're in, and these things have to show up.
Mm-hmm. But when you first start with a new story, are you a pantser or a plotter, do you think?
Run that back to me again. I'm not.
A plotter is basically somebody who outlines, and a pantser is somebody who doesn't start with an outline. They just start with, a character or a scene, and they just start writing, and then they have no idea where they're going with it.
Oh, well, I'm more of a pantser in that. Yeah, I don't write the. I don't plot it out as much as. And I do know where I'm going with the story, but I won't do an overview before I start writing it, because I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going with it, and I know how, and I understand how to pace it so that it comes out the way I want it to come out. I've been writing 8-page short stories, and then I was challenged to write a 16-page story, and I wrote the story and it was 8 pages long, and I went, wait, I'm done. 8 pages short, so I added in a subplot and then cheated with a 2-page splash in the middle of the story. And I pushed it to 16 pages. But I didn't add the story as much as I just adding the subplot in made pushed the story out. And it turned out to be the backstory for one of the main characters.
Okay. So I am sort of a hybrid, but I'm finding out more and more that I'm a full-on outliner. So I used to be a pantser and I never got anything finished, so that I switched to outlining, and I quite like it. But it doesn't mean that I make one outline and I stick to it and I'm rigid. I make a kind of a loose outline. So we have 3 pantsers and 2 hybrid plotters. Is that what we have?
Well, with me, I don't know what I am, because every time I start a story, I get scared and I quit. I guess my question is, like, how do you face that fear of your very first book and push through it and just let it out to the world instead of keep it hidden like a little baby that you don't want to show anybody?
Oh,
because I've tried doing D100 so many different times, and each time I've done it, it was a different story, because I have up to maybe 10 or 15 stories I really want to write. But it's like getting over the idea that, I don't know, I just predict that everyone's going to hate my stuff. But how do you get over that fear? Like, just do it.
Well, what if we do? What if we hate it? So what?
Yeah.
Yeah, really, who gives a fuck?
I care. I care if you hate it. I'll be sad.
No, but in the end, who fucking cares? You still did it. That's all that matters.
You just got to go for it. And you know what? If it sucks, it might suck this time. It might suck next time. But every time you do it, you're going to get better. People's going to give you... your friends will give you the criticism that you need, and you'll grow from it. So just throw it out there. You got to grow. You can do it.
Yeah, it's like you got to learn from your mistakes, but it's like making that very first mistake worries me for some reason. Like, I know it shouldn't, but I have like this dumb head that.
Well, I did the same thing with my first comic. I mean, I was scared to death. I was like, everybody's going to hate this. It's going to suck. But I just threw it out there, and it is what it is, and that's. Just do it. Don't think about it. Just put it out there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like when I put retro on Kickstarter, it became more real, and it's like, it's like I really wonder what people are going to think, and it's like in the end, it's like I'm going to like it, so I think they're going to like it. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty much. I'm odd in that regard. It never occurred to me that my stuff wasn't going to be liked. It didn't occur to me that I wasn't so much writing for other people as I was writing for myself. this is a story that I want to tell. This is a point that I want to make. This is something I want to say. And I said it, and the publisher or the editor accepted the story. Then whether changes were made on it, sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't, and it's out there and it's doing the thing. And when people come back and go, "Wow, that was cool," I go, "Wait, that you read that? That was awesome. I like that you read it. You like that." I actually had. It was funny. I told you how I started out as a letter column writer, and I wrote a bunch of letters to comic books in my 20s. And last year I was at Big Apple Con, and somebody came up to me with a copy of an issue of Marvel Team Up, where I had a letter printed and said, "Would you sign this for me?" And I went, "Hey, you have this? You know who I am? How did that even happen?"
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool moment for me. And the fact that there was somebody who would like pour through letter pages and go, "Hey, this guy's now famous. I have the comic," or he's going to be at a show or whatever. I'm not famous as much as I'm nearly famous, but that was it's just odd that when people like it, and they okay, that's kind of cool. I kind of like that too.
Huh. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do with this one, is just like grit my teeth and do it.
What you got to do?
Yeah.
So, but like for the hundreds, though, nobody's judging your output. They're only judging your effort.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So, like, that should be a safe place for people to try, because we don't care what it is and, how good or bad it is, or, it's just, we're just there to cheer you on as you create the thing. And it doesn't matter, like I said, if it's good or bad. So that should, now what you do with it afterwards, I don't know, maybe then you could be scared, but you know what I mean? Like, but you shouldn't be scared of the challenge when you're doing the challenge, because nobody's judging. There's so many different styles and tastes and talent levels and beginners and experts, and so nobody ever looks at that, I don't think, with the 100s.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
It's like I might be expert level inker, but it's like I'm new to a lot of all the other stuff to a certain degree. So when it's when I did 100 days, and it's like, I hope people like it, but I wasn't really worried. I don't know. It's like I'm just doing the best I can at the moment, and whatever a lot of time I can pull together, and I'm just making progress. And that's the whole idea of it. Like, just post in the group and don't worry about posting or sharing it out. But I think the whole experience is worthwhile, and something that maybe you're meant to face.
Yeah.
Hey, we
That's
have a
my
new
opinion.
person in
I
the.
know, I was gonna say,
We
like,
have somebody new in here, Peter. Tonic showed up. There's somebody lurking.
Hello.
Hello.
Get him.
Hey, Tonic.
Hey, what's up? I come in a little late.
Hey.
Never been better.
No worries. No
Or-
worries. You're a little low, volume wise. If you could do something.
Maybe I talk directly into it.
Oh, there you go.
There we
that
go.
usually helps.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome and.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So because everybody here doesn't know you.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
Sorry.
That moment
Hello.
of hi.
Yeah. Okay. I'm ready.
You got this.
I'm Tonicmole. I doodle some comic books and some CG art and stuff like that. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up, I guess.
Do you have a website? What are you working on right now? What do you have on Insta or where? So we can learn more about you.
Okay, I can do that. Well,
Yeah.
currently, like my main things that I get paid for, I do a little lewd CG animations, and they're kind of story based and stuff that I have a Patreon for.
Oh,
I
like
make
What?
a little bit. Then sadly, it's kind of how it goes. The thing I make the most money off of is making mods for The Sims 4. I take the files out, change them, this type of stuff, and for some reason people love that. And it kind of pays for my art that ends up being the hobby. And but I've drawn comics since I was, I don't know, a baby, and so that's always been a thing I've been working towards and I've done it a lot, but through my teens and 20s, I self little low run self publishing things, but I was a bit more R Crumb back then, in a time that maybe R Crumb wasn't a thing, and so I had little to no success, and then now in my older age, think I kind of reverted back to when I was a kid, the superheroes and stuff like that, and so that's my current main project is for quite some time. I probably 10 or 15 years. I've just been playing with the idea of building up scripts, the world building and stuff like that, and I did one issue a few years ago, and I'll never publish it, but it was kind of just to establish the idea. And then just more recently, I began expanding my scripts so I could have like 10 or 15 issues and the spin-offs, the characters and all this, to try to kind of do a shared superhero shared universe type idea. And so that's really my big push right now.
So you need to like get that going, so then you and Peter can have a crossover issue.
Yeah, I know.
With your two universes.
Yeah. Yeah, and and I've been talking to Peter and stuff, and so that's why I'm here now. And so that pretty much sums me up pretty good.
Where can people find you online?
Oh, my Twitter, and then at the Tonicmole, and actually the easiest way to find me is I'm the only human that uses the name Tonic and Mole. So if you type in Tonicmole to Google, everything you see, for better or for worse, is me or has something to do with me.
Ooh, I'm gonna go try it right now.
It's fun, and sometimes I'm like, what does this have to do with me? And I click on it, and sure enough, it's something. But and both of my patrons, if you play The Sims 4, well, there you go. But my the one that I consider like the only artsy thing that I get paid for, though it is lewd.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, keep it pretty. Yeah, it's pretty extreme lewd, but people seem to love it. So I was like,
on
okay,
Patreon.
yes, and I'm trying to remember what the hell it's called. Oh, it's surprise, surprise! It's patreon.com/tonicmole.
There you go. I'm gonna follow you on the Twitter right now. So I'll have to get everybody's stuff later at the end of the night. Okay, so I'm gonna go sneak a look at your Patreon.
Oh, go no. If you hear her suddenly go, she found it.
Then I'll freak out.
We're all adults here.
That's fine. Right.
Yeah, Eric was showing us something naughty earlier. So
yes.
Hey, it pays.
Eric.
That's all I care about.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I keep forgetting. I gotta message you guys, you and me and Sandy. Like, where are you finding these people that pay you lots of money?
Lots of money.
Fuck,
man. What
money is good.
I accidentally found mine. Like an old friend that I've known for a long time.
Oh. Huh.
My friends hate everything I do.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm on like a Discord server with a bunch of people who do like lewd art. So I'm at home there.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, Discord is the new.
Which is weird because I
forums.
don't draw like lewd stuff.
You
Like
just
that
appreciate
animation
it?
thing, I didn't draw that. I just ink color shading. Like that's my job on that.
I see.
Yeah.
No, it's all fine. I'm not a prude or anything. It's all good.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind drawing more lewd stuff. I'm just shit at it. The female figure just for some reason eludes my abilities.
It's the only thing I can draw. Like I when I was in my 20s, I really thought I was going to become professional comic book artist. And then reading comics and I realized, oh, I can't draw buildings or cars or like inanimate objects, tables, chairs. I can just draw women. And my men ain't that great. They kind of look like women with bigger muscles. And so, that's the deal.
That's like usually with guys, it's the opposite. They can't draw chicks, so their chicks look like they look like, they have like they look like men, and so that's funny that you're like fucking the mold there. You're opposite with
give
that.
me some reference and I can draw women, but I can draw male characters just out of my head.
I have same face disease.
Oh,
You?
God,
Yeah, it's like where all my characters' faces look the same.
Hello, everyone.
Oh,
Ronnie!
Hello there, new person. Or at least new to me.
Wow, it's like a full house tonight.
who's?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
I'm
got
jumping
Ronnie.
in late.
Hey, Ronnie.
Hi, Ronnie.
No
How
problem.
you doing?
We're talking about lewd art, Ronnie. Are you sure you want to stay?
Yeah. We
Apparently it's all good.
It's all good in the neighborhood.
Yep. So Ronnie writes, he's got books. He writes animated books. So Ronnie can talk about writing. That's our theme tonight for those who joined late.
Gotcha.
So we're talking writing. I asked the question, are you a pantser or a plotter, to everybody, so I don't have to ask the newcomers. Ronnie, do you know what this is? Are you a pantser or a plotter?
Give me a description.
A plotter is somebody who like plots out the whole story, usually with an outline of some sort, or like by using 3x5 cards, like they did for old movie script writers did. And a pantser is somebody who flies by the seat of their pants. They just start writing whatever they feel like, and they just go with the flow, and then try to corral it into story structure at the end.
Yeah, I write first and then I do story structure, because with me having a theater arts background, I really like to get everything written out and then take my comic characters and put them like in different panels, kind of like you would see actors on different portions of the stage, like front stage, backstage, center stage.
Mm-hmm.
So I take that approach.
And Tonic, when you're writing, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the extremes depending on what I'm doing. Like currently I've become extreme plotting. I plan things light years in the future. So I have, say, a 50 issue idea that I'll never get that far. But if I do, I have a story to where from the superhero's origin to the end, I have an overall arc. So it's hyper planning for that. However, most of the comics I did in my teens and 20s, I would take a piece of paper and start drawing each page with no idea what was going to happen on the next one. And so it was kind of the extreme version, to where not only was I just kind of free writing, but I was free drawing. Each panel kind of told its own thing. I love doing it. And I have like 100-page comic based on that idea. Of course, when you're drawing, you can't backtrack. And so I have comics that I drew. I have the same story that I did twice, both about 100 pages. One was when I was kind of like, say, 14 or 15, and I read The Crow, and I was like obsessed with it. And so I all of a sudden, that was when my mind sparked that things don't have to be so bright colored superhero. And so I started it as I was like maturing. So the first 20 pages is about this superhero seeking revenge, pretty much kind of just copying The Crow. And then all of a sudden, I kind of was becoming an adult as I was drawing it. And all of a sudden, the costume. I get the costume out with some weird story thing, and it's this psychedelic trip type deal. And so then, after I'd completed this whole thing, and then it ends up it was a baby dreaming the whole thing, and I started it from the very beginning, but more in that frame of mind. But I did it the exact same way to where it was frame by frame. So, but I've learned that is, though it's fun, it's very fun mental exercise. Like I would say, any artist writer, especially in comic books, should sit down with just a blank page and draw and write at the same time. It can be fun, but it's completely worthless because it might mean a lot to you, but I have found that everybody that read my comic was like, "What in the hell is this garbage?" And I'm inherently, I don't have so much boundaries. I don't think about it until people later go, "Man, that was messed up." And I'm like, and then I feel like, embarrassed or something. I think I had, this guy was in hell and he wakes up in hell, but it's kind of like not torture. It's just really weird. And he's walking through it and there's this lady giving birth, but the baby kind of looks like it's on a Giger tree trunk type, like H.R. Giger.
Right, yeah. Alien.
Coming out, and I decided the best way to display this was spread eagle towards the viewer. And then there's these biomechanical horses leaning over. That was like 3 pages in. So like even my best friends would like flip through and hit page 3 and go, no. But at the time it seemed like a
How
great
about
idea.
no?
Yeah, that's right.
How about you keep a bit of a distance from me, sir?
That's right. There's a sexy lewd that people love, and then there is a disturbing lewd that people do not.
Yeah. Well, some people, but those people are disturbing.
That's right. They scare the hell out of me.
So,
We're all a
Doug,
little disturbed.
since you're coming from music and you're writing comics now, is there something you've created that, like Tonic, like maybe you just totally went off the rails and like maybe shelved it, maybe you want to take it off the shelf at some point and look at it again or anything like that?
Yeah, I've got all kind of stuff like that. I've actually thought about taking old songs I've written about. I used to be obsessed with like the band Rush. You know how Rush would have concept albums, and at some point when I was young, I thought, hey, I'm going to write these concept albums, and me and the guys in the band, we'd write all these stories and about these characters and make songs about them and whatnot because I guess we thought we were super good, but there was some really cool stuff there that when he was talking about that, I just thought I'm gonna go back and look at some of this stuff and see if it would be worth doing stories, because we came up with some cool stuff, but I don't know, it might be really cheesy. When you're a kid, you think it's awesome, but then when you get older, you're kind of,
Oh, you know what? It's funny because I was in touch with my friend like when I created my character Retro when I was in my late teens. It was like because my friend Steven at the time, he created a character called Mineral Man, and so it was like almost competitive nature of youth that I immediately created my own character out of thin air. But he sent me some pictures recently that are drawings he did back then, and he wrote my name on one of them. So I got to put them somewhere. Maybe I'll do a video and put them in the video or something. But yeah, it's it's crazy sometimes. Is there anything of Legends of the Lone Wolf that was maybe parts from a song?
Well, the Lone Wolf character is actually based on some of my family history.
Really?
Yeah. I just a while back, me and some people in my family get on this kick of wanting to find out more about where our family came from and stuff like that. Well, so many generations back, we found that there was a Cherokee princess, and princess is a term that we use, but it's not a term that they really use. It just meant that she was the chief's daughter. Well, like at one point, she had married one of my ancestors, and they had some kids. But her story was so interesting, and it just inspired me to create the character Lone Wolf. I wanted to take parts of their story and just kind of tell it, a little bit different, and be like, well, what if this happened, but like one her children became like one of her children became a superhero or something.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Now, we didn't really give you, you didn't really tell us about your anthology that's up right now. Because, I think some of us already know about it, but like you didn't really gush on and on about it. So can you gush on and on about it and tell us
Yeah. I'm not the type of person to really go on and on about things. So, but
I will encourage you.
Well, I created the character Lone Wolf and did the book on it. And the artist I had at the time, he had to take a break. He's got some other books that he was scheduled to do. And the character I got the first book funded, and it seemed like we had a little bit of momentum, and I really didn't want to stop there. So I've met all kind of people through this comic book Twitter explosion that's going on right now. Mm-hmm. And they, I had the idea, well, what if we do an anthology and I get some of my friends to write stories? Because my character, he has a very long lifespan. He's been around for 200 years at this point in his story. So it's like, well, everybody can take a little era. Like, one of the stories is set in the early 1900s, and then we've got one that's like in the 1970s, and there's even a story that takes place in the future. It's just everybody got to do their own take on the character Wolf from that book. And some of us, it's funny because a lot of us have Native American ancestors, because America's the great melting pot, and a lot of people, their families are mixed from all these different. But it's funny, and so everybody kind of did their own story about some Native American lore that took part in part of their country. We used some creatures, it kind of took on a life of its own. But it's really neat because it's all based on a character that I created that's based on some of my ancestors.
And
That's very cool.
How many people are in the anthology you're working on right now? That you're now you're not working on it. You're kickstarting it. No, you're Indiegogoing it, right?
It's Indiegogoing, but the art's about halfway through. The guys are still finishing up.
Okay.
But we've got 6 different stories. I wrote 2 of them, and I have 2 different artists working on. One of them is Marshall, who is fantastic. I love that guy's artwork. Then I'm working with another artist on one of my stories. My friend Matt Mers, he's working with an artist from Malaysia named Muir Munir. He's kind of a manga type artist that he's really influenced by that. And they actually did like a 38-page story. So, instead of having your regular a bunch of short stories, we've got a few short stories, but then one feature-length story right in the middle.
Okay.
And we've got Jameson McCran. He wrote and drew his own story, and then he did the art for one of our friends, Joey Tremblay. So, we've got people from all over the world on this. That's another thing about the miracle of the internet. We've got Canadians, Malaysians, people. I'm in Tennessee, and you can probably tell I've got a Southern accent.
Nah,
Just a little one.
British.
Just a little one.
But see, and some of the guys are from like Washington State, so we're all over the place, and it's so cool that we've all come together, and we've all got ties to Native American history, and just kind of made this book happen.
That's awesome.
And how many more days does the Kickstarter have?
I think we've got like
Indiegogo.
Indigo.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
Indigo.
It's like calling all tissues Kleenex, right? Like,
yeah, it's the same. I mean, I think the same thing. We've got like I think 12 more days, but we're going to go ahead and extend it whether we fund or not before then, because we're just going to try to make as much as we can. All the money we make is actually going into making the nicest book possible. So everybody's just donated their time and everything to this, which is another thing that's really cool.
Very cool.
Is it one of the there's like Kickstarter and Indiegogo have slight differences. With Indiegogo, I think it's all or nothing, or there's like two different settings.
You can do both. You can do both, but we want all or nothing.
Oh, you can do both. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you have to hit the 4,000.
If you don't make it, then what happens if you don't make it?
If we don't make it, everybody who picked a perk, they get their money back.
They get their money back. Yeah. Oh. Well, we're gonna will it to happen. You guys have to back it. Everybody who's watching this, go out and back it.
With Indiegogo, I'm trying to explain the differences. With Indiegogo, when you pledge, the money goes directly to the campaign.
Immediately, right?
With Kickstarter.
Yeah,
with Kickstarter, when you pledge, it goes through at the end of the campaign.
So can you withdraw the funds though? Like, so say you've got 3,000 in there or 4,000. It's been pulled out of the people's bank accounts already. When can you as a creator actually draw that money out of the Indiegogo?
You can't touch it until the campaign's over.
Okay, that's good.
But one other good thing about Indiegogo that's different than Kickstarter is after you fund, you can leave an in-demand store open. So it's like you can just order it. And I think with Kickstarter, once it's over with, it's over, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm contemplating if I should say anything. Why not? What I'm going to be doing with Retro is going over to Indiegogo and do just that. I'm going to set up a storefront. For anybody who missed my book, Retro, in the 5-day campaign, because it was so long, everybody had plenty of time to go and get one. I'm going to set up essentially the same campaign, minus the one that was only one piece and that was sold out already. And that will go to July 4th. Then after that, it will still be a storefront kind of thing, but it won't be the sort of Kickstarter initial Indiegogo special edition, which I'll talk about more later.
Whoa.
So, yeah, if I wasn't crazy enough, I came up with more ideas.
Oh my gosh, Peter. Oh my gosh. So I derailed the conversation. I'm sorry. So can I ask a writing question to get us back on track?
Sure, go ahead, Karyn.
All right. So what I want to know what everybody finds the hardest about writing comics specifically, not just stories, but comics. What is the hardest thing for you when you're writing comics? What is your personal hardest thing? And you have to pick one if there's like a million of them. So who wants to start?
Okay, I can go.
Sandy?
Wait, I'm here.
Oh, you can go.
I'm here. For me, it would be because I actually love the writing. Ironically, even though I started as art, more just drawing and stuff, and now I just love writing. And actually, the art is kind of like because I have to. But for the writing, it's writing for other people. Like I write my scripts for me. So it's almost only dialogue usually because I already know what's happening, what expression they should have. I know it by just what the dialogue is. And and I might have a short sentence that says, okay, now so and so does this. But then there's the horror of if I have another artist come in, that they have to know what the hell's going on. And it's kind of a nightmare because it's hard to see it from someone else's perspective because, I've gotten so used to that. So for me, yeah, the hardest part would be writing a comic script that is decipherable for the artist. And so, yeah, that's a tricky bit for me.
Okay. Who's next?
I'll go next. I was going to say finding an artist is the hardest part for me. But that's technically not the question.
Yeah.
It's I'm going to say just making the story fit the number of pages I've been assigned for it. I mean, if I'm writing a full comic, I know that it's going to be 22, 24 pages long. A couple of times I've written shorter stuff that's gone 10 or 12 pages, and I really needed to be 8 pages or 10 pages, and so it's either expanding what I have. I mentioned this earlier, expanding my 8-page story to a 16-page story, or making my 10-page story into an 8-page story to fit the criteria of what, and still getting everything that I want into it. And it's really weird because I'll write the story just to write the story, and then once it's written, I go back through it, and now I'm the editor, not the writer. And even though I may have loved this bit as the writer, it's got to go because it doesn't add to the story as the editor. And I have to kill parts of the story that really I did not want because I really enjoyed the writing of that.
You had to kill your darlings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, who's next? Peter, you're next.
Raise your hand. What do I find most difficult? Finding time.
No, come on.
I know. I don't know. It's ideas come to me. I mean, sometimes finding unique ideas is the hardest thing. It's like, oh, this is a great idea, and it's like, no, wait, that was the movie. Wait, that was a TV show I saw. Wait, I mean, I've consumed so much mass media that everything seems like something else. Sometimes, unless I'm just totally engulfed in the writing process and in the story. Oh, hello. It's like, yeah, I start judging it along the way and sort of like, maybe I should change direction a little bit.
So finding your own unique story, that's your challenge. Most challenging, not your only challenge, but your most challenge. Finding time being your number one challenge.
Yeah.
I think that's your default answer for everything, Peter. Because you're so busy.
I am too busy.
I know. So is Sandy back? Is she still chasing dogs
I
or
was
whatever?
just on mute because barking.
Yeah. So what is your hardest thing? I bet yours might be the same as mine. What is your hardest thing about writing?
Well, kind of like as I mentioned earlier, is just having the courage to finish it because my brain is dumb. And but also just organizing my thoughts, I guess, like knowing where to start and where to end.
So do you think that's wrapped up in confidence as well? That you just yeah,
it's probably definitely wrapped up into that. So having the confidence to start is my problem.
So confidence. Okay.
Well, I can understand that though. Like, you're talking about story-wise, like,
yeah,
where a story should end, kind of thing.
Yeah, like knowing how to start it where it'll make people want to keep reading it.
Yeah.
Where they're satisfied.
Yeah, I mean that is challenging. I mean, coming up with a story is like the easiest part. but thinking about it in the sense of like, how do I approach this concept, this idea, this situation in a unique and compelling way, and then keep them entertained along the way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the theory behind a comic is like, you know, at the end of a page is sort of some sort of big or subtle cliffhanger to get you to the next page, and so on and so on.
Yeah. Yeah, just
So
knowing that part.
I do find that, you know.
Yeah, I've met a lot of people that have and it's not, it's getting the self-confidence to feel like what they're writing is, worthwhile. I feel that I am, and my wife who she also writes, she often tells me this. I have a lot of confidence in my writing, and to a fault. I call it pulling a Whedon. It's where you're not a bad writer, but you're so manic, like really into it. I will write an entire script and go, this is a hilarious masterpiece. And if I wait a week and go back to it, I will just be like, how did I write this? And at what point did I think this was good? I'll have a character. I find my own writing will almost be offensive. Like a female superhero will make, there'll be like 12 boob jokes in a page. And I'm like, what, how did this get on here? But yeah, it's just being in this zone and you just write and write. And so I have kind of an opposite problem. I'll write and never stop and question, should I have written that? And so, I'll have to go back and almost rewrite an entire script. And I call it a Whedon because if you see movies or scripts that Joss Whedon has wrote, but didn't get second, third, fourth drafts, his first draft, Alien Resurrection, was one of them that he, didn't like. They rushed him. It has jokes that don't work, a lot of them. And that might have looked good on the page, but needed reworking and stuff. And some of the stuff in Justice League, that type of thing. But given time, he's an amazing writer. And I feel that I have that same problem of thinking things are good and they might not be.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good test of whether it be writing or even just artwork. You know, like give it a space of time. You know, step away from it, then come back to it and look at it again, and then you can see it almost for its true colors. Because when you just finished, you're too close to it. You're too close because most of what you see is still what's in your head. You know.
Yeah.
It's not what your eyes see, but what's still floating around in your head. But you give it a little space, and you go, well, yeah, maybe that's really dull, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and it could be the opposite. I know people, they write and they hate it, and they're the polar opposite to where I think I'm a freaking genius, and then find out that I'm not. Other people, they might have wrote something amazing and they just destroy it inside their head, and given the space, I think we forget that we write it and we go back and read it as if someone else did. And suddenly we might either be like, hey, I ain't that bad, or wow, I'm worse than I thought. But yeah, it needs distance.
I tend to, when I'm writing something, whether it's a comic script or even an article that I'm writing, I'd like to write it and then put it to bed and then go to bed or walk away from it and come back the next day and look it over and make sure that whatever it was that I wrote still resonates with me. And every once in a while, I'll come across an old script or an old article I've written, and I'll read through it and I'll go, wow, that was really funny that they did that, or that was a really cool phrase I turned, or whatever it was. And at this point, I go, yeah, I guess I am a decent writer. That's okay. But I'll read sometimes to counterbalance that. I'll read stuff that I wrote 30 years ago and go, Oh my God, did I actually say that? Oh, that was awful. So it goes both ways.
I just realized I haven't checked the
And I
chat.
tried to do it. So, hey, just curious, how much?
There's lots of people that showed up. Ronnie was in. Go ahead.
No, I was just curious. As this is my first time, I was just curious as to how long do we go? Until we're done, or sometime tomorrow?
I was thinking we're heading towards the end. So
Not that
yeah, it wasn't a lot of chat. we got a little delay or something. That's probably my end. But yeah, it didn't seem to be much chat. I might be missing a lot because my internet and / computer kind of jumps time sometimes. But I want to say, yeah, thank you everybody in the chat who showed up and commented. Sorry I missed it. I'll actually go back after the show and read some of that. If there's any, I guess we can sort of get to wrapping it up. So if there's anything that everybody wants to say, I'll just go one by one. Starting again with Sandy. Where can people find you?
Okay. They can find me under Darkenmarr on all social medias. I don't know what else to say. I'm currently getting ready to start the 100s again. So I'm just prepping and getting my script finished.
Please be brave and just jump
Just
in
do it.
and it will be okay.
Jump in head first.
The water might be cold, but it's okay.
The world may surprise me. So
yeah.
But yeah, they can find me everywhere. I'm the only one that's Darkenmarr, so that's where they can find
me. Cool. All right, Doug. Great to have you on tonight.
I've enjoyed being here. Thanks for having me. You can find me on Twitter at DG310. I have the Indiegogo currently running. That's Legends of the Lone Wolf on Indiegogo. Go check it out. You can read Lone Wolf issue 1 for free. It's the black and white version. Download it, keep it, enjoy it, whatever. But I appreciate you guys having me on, and I've had a good time talking to y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate you showing up. Then we have Eric. Eric, are you on the internet?
Yes, I am. You can pretty much find me either by looking up my name, Eric Faries, Faries, or Eric Ronin. Ronin is Ronin. And I pretty much just drawing, gaming, all the random stuff. I also do product reviews.
Yes, indeed. Then we have Karyn Lewis. Is it 2 names, 3 names? I don't know. Every time
I know it's
always
technically 3 names. My website is under my maiden name, so when I got married, I just tacked on my husband's name, so that's why I'm 3. I'm a mess basically. But right now, the best thing you could do is go to 100. What is our link, Peter? The 100s.
100 days of making comics.com /Palmiotti, I believe.
No. /Karyn, Karyn, or Palmiotti. But other than that, you can go to my website, which is Karyn. My website's not really. Just go to the Kickstarter for right now. You'll find me on another one of these at some point, and I'll tell you other things. But for now, just go to the Kickstarter, 100 days of making comics.com /Karyn to go to the Kickstarter, because you're going to want this poster that I'm working on. You really are.
Yeah. I believe by, if not already, then by tomorrow we'll be at our first stretch goal, which is the letters page, which is going to be very, very cool.
Very cool.
But yes, I want to shoot for Karyn's goal level which is 4,600. I think we
Yep,
said something like that.
46.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So then we have Robert. Robert, where can people?
People find me. I have a blog site that I occasionally dip into. I used to do it more before Facebook came around. But my blog site is Freelance Inc. It's INK, one word, blog.blogspot.com. And I also post reviews and stuff on Hub Pages, which is hubpages.com at Robert J Sodaro, and that's Sodaro. Plus, I'm on Twitter and Instagram and a whole bunch of other social media. Look up Robert, you'll find me.
Very cool. And yeah, I know Robert's for years and years, and he's always really busy and working on a lot of things.
Yeah.
So very cool to have you on, buddy.
Appreciate it, man. I'll try to make.
Then Rob.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Then Ronnie, who came in late, but always he's always welcome.
You can find me.
Go ahead.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook with ronniegunter.art. You can find me on YouTube. Ain't got too much on there right now with Ronnie Gunter. And you could go on my website, not too much there either, at www.ronniegunter.com.
Very cool. Then Tonic. Hey, Tonic.
Hey.
People can just look up your name and find you everywhere, right?
Pretty much. On Twitter, I'm both of the Tonicmoles, but at the Tonicmole's the one I actually check.
Oh, well, why didn't you say that earlier? Now I got to look and make sure I subscribe to the right one.
Yeah,
I
because
subscribe to Doug. What is it? At the Tonicmole? What?
Yeah, the THE, like the Tonicmole.
Tonicmole.
Yeah, my family followed me on at Tonicmole, and so I bailed and started.
Smart man.
Yeah, nobody knew who I was on Twitter because nobody knows who I really am. So then somehow my brother found me or something, and because I told him he produces movies and stuff, and I was like, well, this wouldn't be bad. And then somehow he followed, I think, my mom, and then that just led to a whole thing. I was like, oh no, they don't, because I even told him when he said, hey, what's your Twitter? I said, I'll tell you, but whatever you see, that's your own fault. Don't come to me like, oh my God, what was that? No, it's his own fault.
You choose to enter this domain.
Exactly. And so yeah, you at the Tonicmole is the one I'm actually there. And the Patreon, though, it is extraordinarily I say lewd, but no, it is. If you've been to the underground, like the underbelly of the internet, and you said, hey, this ain't too bad, then it's totally fine. And that's my Patreon / Tonicmole. So you type, I think, let me double check this. I bet if you type in Tonicmole Patreon, that pops up.
It did. I found you.
Oh boy.
But it was all protected because I'm not a subscriber. So
yeah, I got in trouble because some weren't. And they said, yeah, you got to block all that. Hey, it only costs $1. Oh, you can see the same things to the side. Like there's the lady. Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of like that, but animated and stuff. So, and that one I actually had to, because the other, like the mods and stuff really pay for everything. Because this actually costs a fortune to render and to have the computer to render these CG animations. Mm-hmm. And ironically, it can't pay for that. So my other Patreon really pays for me to be able to have the other Patreon. Huh. And I do have a Patreon set up for when I launch my comic book, if that's the way I go. I haven't decided between Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or just doing the Patreon to where people kind of just pay for me to work. I'm comfortable with Patreon. I have like anxiety over like a Kickstarter and being able to fulfill my obligations. So I haven't decided that, and I'm just getting the art together because the comic will have the two main characters will be written, drawn by me, and then there's several side superheroes that I'm going to try to get other artists in to draw them and stuff. So anyways, I'm early on that, but it's up so that because they're changing Patreon or something. So I have it up, but it's not ready yet. And so that's everything me.
Okay.
Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching the show. Please like if you're not watching this live. Comment below. Let us know your thoughts. If you want a guest on here that you haven't already seen, there are millions of them. Let me know. I'll get in touch. I'll give it a shot. Who knows? And yeah, I'll be doing Independent Crossroads tomorrow with Travis Gibb, and Thursday night I'll be with Niall and Billy Tucci and with my buddy Mike Emirates, talking about anthology, talking about ritual a little bit probably, and just promoting the heck out of Werewolves and Unicorns until the very end. I think we're 14 days away. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Have a good one.